Hello folks and welcome to the Revengence Tech Rundown. With Metal Gear Rising Revengeance just now released on the PC from both Japanese developers and developers not known for releasing anything on the PC, naturally people are very gun-shy about this purchase since there's very little pre-release info out on the market. This video isn't a review in the traditional sense since there are more than enough Revengeance reviews out there, but we will cover the PC port's performance for anywhere buyers. To put this video into perspective, my PC is a run-of-the-mill rig. It's an i5 processor with a GTX 460 graphics card and 8GB of RAM. Nothing special, it barely meets the recommended system requirements of the port. Enough semantics, however, let's cut to the chase. In terms of performance, Revengeance is pretty impressive. Once gameplay started on full 1080p settings and ramped up texture settings, I was treated to a beautiful, smooth 60 frames per second experience. Number of enemies and shadows didn't mean shit. This game ran amazingly and didn't catch a hitch even when you're on a time-sensitive instance needing precise timing. There are some slight problems, however, namely Zangeki causing my rig to cry bloody tears after I hit somewhere around 300 cut pieces. On medium settings, Zangeki can achieve anywhere around 1200 pieces, but unless your processor is on par with a supercomputer, then you're most likely gonna chug hard, so exercise restraint. Revengeance scales well to the 1080p standard, but there are a few textures that look awkward at times, most notably the raised legs after you rend his armor. Cutscenes are up to 1080p as well, but they're at 30 frames per second, which isn't bad at all, but it feels somewhat jarring when you go from butter-smooth action massacres to movie-esque cutscenes. There have been some reports of set cinematic instances and zandatasu acting strangely, but there have been no real patterns as to what causes them, and I can't confirm these reports since I didn't run into them myself. Revengeance performs quite admirably even if your computer's somewhat low-end, but to get the most out of the crazy physics instances, then you better have an incredible processor at hand. The options menu for Revengeance is okay. It's not in-depth with settings, but it gives you what you should expect from a PC game. You have low to high preset options with the option to customize textures, shadows, anti-aliasing, and Zangeki. Be careful when altering Zangeki though, my computer handles many other games well on the highest settings, but when I put Zangeki on high, the game literally locked down to single-digit frames per second, on the options menu no less. One thing I like about the graphics settings, however, is that you don't have to restart the game at all, it just auto-applies the settings and brings you back into the game. This is very nice if you want to stress test the game on the fly since you can just edit one setting on a whim to see if it works then get back to the game without any hassle at all. It's pretty great. Controller support is typical of the modern gaming habits. Revengeance supports the 360 pad super well. So well, in fact, that you don't need to customize anything, just plug it into your computer and everything's ready to go. PS3 pads don't have this luxury. You're gonna need joystick or some way to make it emulate a 360 controller if you want to use a PS3 pad. Keyboard and mouse controls make sense, but they feel somewhat odd to me. The game thankfully uses WASD controls, Shift for blade mode, and Control for ninja run. Now, unlike the Dark Souls port, mouse controls work perfectly fine and offer the added benefit of extremely precise blade mode cuts and free cut just by moving the mouse, which is great for certain boss fights later on. Keyboard and mouse controls, however, just feel a lot slower and clunkier since movement through the keyboard is binary while analog sticks offer a much smoother and natural experience. Parrying also feels a bit harder to land since you don't have the luxury of analog precision and your attacks bound on the mouse feel a lot slower overall than on a controller. You can rebind keyboard and mouse controls to whatever you like, but in terms of a kinesthetic level, this game feels like it was built for controllers first and foremost. Overall, the Revengeance port is incredible, but it seems like it excludes some audiences. The average rig can run this game perfectly fine, but if you want the premier 1080p Revengeance experience with maximum Zangeki, then you're gonna need an immaculate rig. Don't let this deter you, however. Even with my mediocre computer, I still consider the port a far better experience than the console versions by a long shot. As noted on the story page, the port also comes with all of the DLC at a respectable price tag. From a technical standpoint at least, Revengeance manages to cater to all walks of life for PC players and performs well. Hopefully this video put things into perspective for you, and if you got the game now then go and let her rip.